The New York Jets had a hell of a season last year. They were on the Aaron Rodgers ride, so to speak. So if you could just wrap up in a sentence, a word, a syllable, even, what would you have to say about the Jets?
Disappointing. It's just total disappointment, not living up to expectations. Never seen in my life expectations for my Jets so high ever heading into a season with Aaron Rodgers, and it was not met. So it has to be disappointing. It's the first word that comes to mind.
Yeah, we're gonna keep with the disappointment because we're gonna go over 2024 because this is gonna be a radically different team, front office compared to what we saw last year. And last year, what we did see was a team that ended up going underachieving, as you said, disappointed. They went 5-12. They ended up landing the 7th overall pick. And it just wasn't pretty. You just didn't have a beautiful experience with Aaron Rodgers and friends.
Not a good experience at all, Broshmo, not at all. And, and we'll talk about the 2025 Jets. It's a completely different animal now. It's a reboot, new front office, new head coach, new quarterback. Everything is new here. And also expectations are lower, where I feel a little bit more comfortable. Okay, a little more comfortable when everyone's expecting us to suck. All right, so if we do show any marginal improvement, it's like, whoa, look at these guys. So I'm definitely comfortable where my Jets are now compared to previous years.
Yeah, so what went wrong last year? Last year, you get a full year of Aaron Rodgers, and suddenly Salah, he's fired mid-season. Joe Douglas on his way out.
Oh, it was a mess, dude. It was. And I think it all, what went wrong last year? The year prior when Rodgers tore his Achilles. 4 snaps in, the Jets were living in that shadow of the Achilles tear. Even after that next year, I think Rodgers was healthy for a full 17 games last season, but he was not 100% himself, on top of the coaching staff just being absolutely abysmal. Robert Saleh running the ship. He did not know what he was doing in terms of running the team. He could coach defense. The Jets defense always played well, but the offensive system with Daniel Hackett, Aaron Rodgers, them going all in to win, that was the mindset. And I think that the external pressure was too much. Aaron Rodgers was obviously a big part of it, and there was a lot of noise, a lot of external pressure that the Jets are going to win the AFC East, we heard a lot of experts say. This is the year the Jets could be Super Bowl contenders. And as Jets fans, we haven't even made the playoffs in 14 years. And we're like, what? People are picking us to do those great things. So I think you mix in a team that's young with a lot of these veterans on top of it, with the old quarterback and Aaron Rodgers mixing with the bad coaching staff. It was a recipe for failure. I was hopeful it could work out, but that's not the case. So it was just an absolute nightmare. Robert Saleh got fired early on in the season. The team gave up. There's no confidence on that roster individually between themselves and each other, and that's why the Jets had to completely get a brand new GM, head coach, and quarterback, and hopefully things are going to change.
Yeah, and I mean, I was actually just talking with Patriots Global about this. Some guys are just better coordinators than they are head coaches. I mean, point to Arthur Smith. We were talking about Josh McDaniels the other day. And, I mean, even Dennis Allen, Matt Eberflus. These guys that just, they're good at coaching, whether it be the offense or the defense. But when it comes to actual team management, having to work in conjuncture with a GM, it's a different animal. It's just not their ball game, and that might be the case because defense was really never the problem for the Jets. It was
never. The defense was always there, and it was the offense that was completely never up to speed, which is why we're like, oh, Aaron Rodgers can fix it now. We got a great defense, and Rodgers can at least play average, and we'll be able to win some football games. But no, that Achilles injury, and then the next year, the coaching staff was just a mess. But I'm really excited to turn the page and have this, and we'll get into the 2025 Jets here, but it just feels like there's a brand new energy coming in that is exciting. Not because I'm excited the Jets are going to win the division or anything. There's just a breath of fresh air is what I would say. There's a different identity, different culture being built here, and I'm excited to see how it all shapes out. Yeah,
because I wouldn't even say Rodgers played poorly last year. I thought it was adequate. They were in spots where they could have won games. It just never really all came together. I was looking at EPA per play for the squad last year. Offensively, they were in the lower half of the league. They were middle of the league, but lower half of that middle of the league. And even defense took a step back. But I mean, you had injuries to like Chuck Clark was on IR multiple times.
Jermaine
Johnson was the big one early on. I mean, that kind of allowed though Will McDonald to have a bigger role and take a bigger step,
which he broke out.
Yeah. Mosley.
And I think a big reason why we're losing too, it was they just didn't know how to win a football game. Like if you look at the stats, Rodgers didn't play bad. You know, he put up relatively good numbers from a statistical standpoint. But then you go into where was he in the clutch? Where was he in the fourth quarter when you need to go down the field and get, a touchdown? And then whenever he did get that touchdown, could the defense get a stop? No, we let Jacoby Brissett march down the field and beat us in the clutch. We let Anthony Richardson on the Colts drive down the field and beat us. Rodgers drive down the field against Indianapolis. He took the lead. We're all thinking, that's it. That's the game. We just got to stop Richardson. And no, he goes down the field. So I think there was just there's the clutch gene was not there, putting them out. They just didn't know how to win, right? They played relatively good football for 4 quarters, but no one cares if you're not getting the W at the end of the day. So I think that's why those metrics you're reading, it's like, wait, the Jets weren't as bad as we think, but they only won 5 games. But then you rewatch all 17 games, it makes sense. They did not have that killer instincts. They did not know how to either get the stop when they needed to or get that touchdown on offense when they needed to as well.
Yeah, and I think you summed it up perfectly. Like the not being able to turn scoring opportunities into actual touchdowns. They were 24th in points scored. And looking at how many one-score losses they had last year, like just going back, Denver lost by 1, Minnesota by 6, Buffalo by 3. You had an overtime loss to the Dolphins. Fins up, baby, fins up.
I was there for that in Miami for a roundtable event.
Oh, really?
It was TD and I and our whole AFC's roundtable crew for that game, man, in Miami. That was brutal.
Yeah, I can imagine. But, hey, that was last year. You had a full off season. Let's start with the front office because you ditched the GM, new GM in tow here. How you feeling about him?
Yeah, Darren Muji. He's a interesting cat. And I got to be honest, man, like seeing Joe Douglas go, I started being a content creator and covering the Jets on Jets Media the year Joe Douglas was hired. So I was linked to Joe Douglas with the Jets and my whole identity was Joe Douglas's vision. And I think him drafting Zach Wilson, that was a failure. And then him bringing in Aaron Rodgers is a failure. You don't get multiple shots at quarterback. He's gone. So now you bring in Darren Muji. And I think Joe Douglas has done a relatively good job building this roster around it. And you heard Aaron Glenn even say the roster they're inheriting, they love this roster. There's a lot of people on this team you really like, which Joe Douglas deserves credit for. So now you insert Darren Muji, who the Jets brought in from the Denver Broncos, an assistant GM. He is someone that is really lockstep with Aaron Glenn, which I really, really like. I think that both of them share the same philosophy of football. They see the game the same way, and that's very important. You need to have your GM and head coach looking at it the same way. And this offseason, it wasn't flashy. They didn't go after the stars. They didn't go after massive trades. They didn't sign massive contracts. They went after guys that are 25, 26 years old, coming off their rookie deals, giving them 1-year prove-it deals to try to make themselves on this roster while there's a brand new culture. And of course, getting a brand new quarterback, which we'll talk about, Justin Fields. So I think it was a very unique approach. The Jets are extremely young. There's only 3 players on the roster that's 30 years old. It's our backup quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, our long snapper, Thomas Hennessy, and then Josh Reynolds, our wide receiver, who's 30. Those are the only 3 players on the roster that's 30 years old or older. So this Jets team is extremely youthful, and all the guys they brought in free agency and, of course, the draft class are all young, trying to make themselves in the league. So that's kind of what this Jets team is going to be about, and I think that's a really calculated approach of Darren Muji to try to bring in the guys that fit their culture and see, okay, who's going to really buy into Aaron Glenn's system or not. And then next offseason, I think we may see a little bit more of an overhaul, if you will, of this roster.
Yeah, and I mean, quick shout out to Joe Douglas. I don't think drafting outside of Zach Wilson was ever really the problem. He did a relatively good job. I mean, so much so he's over now with the Philadelphia Eagles as a senior scout. So
that's where he came, yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. But
you want a ring with them.
You get a new head coach, Aaron Glenn, the culture guy. Robert Saleh was supposed to be the culture guy. You're going to go down the defensive well once again. I'm sure there's a lot of excitement for Aaron Glenn there in New York.
There really is, and a big reason for it. And some people on the surface be like, "Oh, here we go again, another Saleh, first-year head coach it was a defensive coordinator." But there's a difference, a huge difference between Aaron Glenn and Robert Saleh, and it's this: Aaron Glenn has ties to the New York Jets. He was drafted in 1994, first-round pick to the New York Jets. Played under Bill Parcells as a player. And if you're a Jets fan and you lived through that era, I did not. I was born in 1998. But people that lived through that 90s era of Jets football, you think of Aaron Glenn, you think of good football. You think of really good Bill Parcells, tough football. People love Aaron Glenn. And then after Aaron Glenn retired as a player, he wanted to become a head coach. He had this whole revelation. He's like, I'm owning a restaurant. I don't know what I want to do in my life. I love the game of football. I want to teach. So he wanted to get into scouting, and he thought that was the first step to become a head coach, and that was his ultimate goal. And he became a scout for the New York Jets. And the fact that he became a scout and worked his way up all the way from being a scout, a qualities coach, an assistant here, an assistant there, coached under Sean Payton, and then was coached under Dan Campbell, of course. He was built to be a head coach. And the fact that he landed with the New York Jets, the team that he was drafted by and the team that he started his head coaching journey of being a scout, it all makes sense. And I think that he's all about culture and identity. He preaches confidence. He's also real. Like, he is not afraid. The big difference between Glenn and Saleh also is Saleh was known to be a little bit too nice of a guy, just a yes man and hyping up players guy. But Glenn, he's going to tell you where you're wrong. He's not afraid to tell you what needs to improve on. He seems a little bit more tough-minded, similar to Bill Parcells. And Jets fans would tell you Bill Parcells is like the last coach that we really remember being good, outside of Rex Ryan, of course. Cannot forget about Big Rex over there. But that's really what it comes down to. And we're hopeful as Jets fans that Aaron Glenn can really bring a new spark here to this Jets organization.
Yeah, and you also bring over Steve Wilkes, who's had a couple of raw deals where he was like the interim head coach for the Panthers after Matt Rule got canned. I thought he had a raw deal with the Niners. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he replaced Saleh too. Like when Saleh came to the Jets, the 49ers hired Wilkes. So I think that Steve Wilkes, him having interim head coach experience is only going to benefit a first-time head coach like Aaron Glenn. And he's going to be very unique to this defense. And I'm really excited to see it because this defense personnel-wise, they're talented. We still got a lot of players to be excited about on defense. The big question is the offense in terms of like, how is that going to work out? Everything's new. A first-year offensive coordinator, a brand new quarterback that's trying to figure himself out in the league. So that's a whole other conversation. But I'm excited about Steve Wilkes. I think that was a good hire.
Yeah, let's actually talk about the OC because relatively unknown. I mean,
yeah,
he's been under for the most part. Ben Johnson for the better part of the last like 4 or 5 years. Prior to that, he was a running backs coach and an OC for the XFL. He spent a little time under Jim Harbaugh at San Diego University. So like we're really going like far back. So what is the, I guess, what do you think the offense is going to look like from a scheme perspective? Is it going to be probably similar to what we saw, the creativity we saw, the variety we saw with Ben Johnson?
Yeah, so his role with Detroit was the pass game coordinator. And his role every single week was how could we get every single playmaker the ball? And if you think of the Lions, you think of all these guys that needs the ball. Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Josh Reynolds when he was on the Lions. There's a lot of guys. So his role was how can we articulate a game plan? And he brings it to Ben Johnson. Hey, this is how we need to get all these guys involved. These are the passing plays. These are the scheme. So he's going to implement that idea of everybody eats and a flavor of creativity. The cool thing about this offense that I really like is it's being built around Justin Fields. And Justin Fields has not made it in this league. He's not proved himself to be a legit starter. And the Jets are going to give him every single opportunity to be that guy. So they're going to build a system that's all around Justin Fields' strengths, of course, which is mobility, moving on the run, his dual threat ability, and we're hoping as Jets fans that he can figure it out upstairs in his head, because that's really where he has been having issues, holding on the ball too long and not processing the field. So I think so far out of OTAs and minicamp, we've seen a lot of Jets reporters come out and say, number one, Garrett Wilson's being utilized in a way that we've never seen before in terms of scheme. And that excites me because Garrett Wilson is such a talented player and proved that he's quarterback proof, right? 1,000 yards in his first 3 seasons with a carousel at quarterback. And now you think of the scheme that he had with Nathaniel Hackett. It was so vanilla. The guy was just lined up outside, would run a go route, and just like would not expand his route tree. Now you're seeing Garrett Wilson line up outside, line up in the slot, and speed motions, expansive route tree. Think of how the Lions utilize Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's how the Jets are going to utilize Garrett Wilson in our own unique way. Think about Sam Laporta and how he's unleashed in Detroit. We drafted Mason Taylor from LSU, which really excites me. I think Mason Taylor is a perfect plug-and-play starter as a rookie that he can be utilized out of that backfield as well. You think of Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. I'm not going to say they're as good, but it's similar Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So how the Jets are going to utilize that backfield. And then the offensive line is really going to be the nuts and bolts of it. The Lions offensive line is fantastic, and the Jets offensive line is the best it's been on paper for a long time. So are they going to be able to establish themselves at the line of scrimmage to set up the play action? So I'm expecting a lot of creativity, but also a lot of learning curves. This is a first-year head coach, a quarterback that struggled in the past. I think this offense is going to struggle. It's going to get ugly before it gets pretty. I think it's going to be the first half of the season, a little nuts, little bruises, and then I'm hopeful in the back end of the season we start to see a little bit more rhythm and confidence in this offense.
Yeah. I mean, with that, we could probably get into some of the free agency and talk about some of the losses, which, I mean, with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Morgan Moses, these old heads now leaving, it's like, yeah, we want to push towards more of a youth movement offensively. But I mean, again, you're replacing essentially wide receiver one, kind of a pseudo wide receiver one there with Garrett Wilson. You're replacing your quarterback franchise, I suppose. I don't know if we could call Aaron Rodgers a franchise quarterback for the Jets, but even Tyler Conklin. Yeah. So like replacing some significant parts there on the offense. How you feeling 100%. About that?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, and then it makes sense in my brain. Who would replace Tyler Conklin with? A rookie, Mason Taylor. Who do we replace Morgan Moses with? A rookie, Armand Membu. Right, so you're going from older guys to youth, and that's our first and second round picks on offense, right? First round pick, Armand Membu, going to start at right tackle. Tight end, Mason Taylor is going to start at tight end. And then Aaron Rodgers, you're going from an older guy to a young football player in Justin Fields, former first round pick, was not successful in Chicago, went to Pittsburgh and was 4-2, and then got benched, and now he's looking for a real opportunity to prove himself. Could he be the next Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith to kind of break out? We have no idea. We shall see. The Jets are going to give him all the tools. And I'll tell you this about Justin Fields. The New York Jets are extremely confident in him, and he's also confident in himself. That obviously doesn't mean anything, but you need that confidence and belief and support system in order to thrive. So I think the youth movement and the differences of this offense, it's going to be scheme. Quarterback is going to look like a completely different animal, man. Jets fans have never had a mobile quarterback. You know who our last mobile quarterback was? Mike Vick. Oh, yeah, he was a Jet, by the way, if you missed out on that little era of Jets football. We don't know what it's like to have a mobile quarterback, and I'm excited to see what this offense looks like with the youth movement at the helm.
Most definitely. I would argue probably the biggest loss this offseason was probably DJ Reed. I've been a DJ Reed truther for many years now.
Oh, really?
Hey, this is the most underrated corner two in the league. But I mean, shoot, we'll get to the draft. You address that with the third round pick, bringing in another guy. You also lost Son Reddick. Kind of like, okay, whatever.
Oh, he's the worst Jet of all time, Son Reddick. I hate
all time.
Like me covering the Jets. How about that? Just in terms of the headache he brought of like the holding out and all that. Oh boy.
Let's go with recent history. Yeah,
right.
Kinlaw's gone. You got Solomon Thomas. He's out there. Ashton Davis is now going to be a starter for the Dolphins. Yay.
He's starting for you guys?
I mean, we got no one else at safety.
Oh wow.
I mean, I'll get into it with TD. Like, our secondary is a hot mess, man. It's pretty bad. But Mosley, he's gone. But you also have a good up and comer young guy there, former Auburn safety, and was it
Jamie Sherwood?
Jamie Sherwood, yeah.
Wow,
I had everything
Auburn
about him
safety.
but his name. But
he was my guy too.
Yeah, no, I was happy. I was excited because I think in that same draft they took Hamsah Nasruddin, who was like, okay, they're converting this dude to linebacker. So they took a couple of safeties. They converted a linebacker in one hit.
That's development awesome. 101. What the way that the Jets developed Jamie Sherwood, he got to sit and learn behind C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams, and now he got his opportunity last year, top 5 in tackles. So yeah, the defensive overall, and I'm excited to get into the corner we drafted because I have a funny story about him, and we were there together at the Senior Bowl because there's a cool little connection with the Jets, with me and Azareye'h Thomas. But yeah, the Jets on defense, we've had a lot of people leave. The interior defensive line was a big position that all of a sudden is overhauled. We brought in 3 new defensive tackles in free agency. We brought in Byron Cowart from the Chicago Bears, Jay Tufele, who's a younger guy. What's his name? Nadi from the Kansas City Chiefs. And we got Quinnen Williams. And if there was a guy on the defensive tackle room that I think has a chance to break out, undrafted free agent Leonard Taylor III, from last year's class, right? He's entering year 2. You're a fan. Are you a fan of the U? Okay, then you know Leonard Taylor. I mean, this guy was
Dolphins, Hurricanes.
Yeah, it makes sense. Totally makes sense. I like Leonard Taylor, man. I think he has a chance to break out. Will McDonald coming off a breakout season. I do like this defensive line. And you talk about DJ Reed, right? Let's go into that. Big DJ Reed fan. I think every Jets fan knew he was gone heading into last year just because of money and contracts, and we have Sauce Gardner. And then going into the draft, we're like, will the Jets draft his replacement, go into free agency to get their replacement? And we're at the Senior Bowl. That was my first time ever being there, and it was the first time I met you, which was awesome. And I'll never forget, I'm seeing, and I told you before the show, I don't really watch a lot of college ball. That time of year is when I really get deeper into like prospects in terms of the draft. I see this kid number 8 from FSU. I'm like, that kid looks awesome. Who is Thomas? And then I'm intrigued by him. And then we go onto the field after practice, and I'm like, I got to interview Azareye'h Thomas because he stood out. If there's anybody that reminded me of Sauce Gardner, just in terms of length, size, it's him. He was my first ever interview I ever had in my media career. That was my first time ever covering anything on behalf of Roundtable Sports. And then the Jets drafted him, which I didn't expect. So I was like, wow, the guy that really popped out to me at the Senior Bowl, the Jets actually drafted. And I remember thinking to myself, man, if the Jets drafted him, Sauce and Thomas for the long term would be elite. And here we are. I'm really excited about Thomas. He has been impressing early on in minicamp and OTAs. And the Jets did sign Brandon Stevens from the Ravens, so it's going to be a competition between Stevens and Thomas for that CB2 spot.
Yeah, and I mean, we could get into the additions, and we could start there at corner, because Stevenson's was an interesting addition. I was like, they're bringing him in. I'm really
Jets hated him.
Yeah, I'm really hoping he's not going to be, like, I'm hoping there's competition there. And it's like, okay, well, they also have Stiggers, who I actually liked about a couple of years ago when he came out after playing Canadian football. It's absolutely wild. But they add him. They bring in Andre Sisco, which I think could be underrated. It's either going to be really good or really bad.
Yep.
That man's such a high risk, high reward type player. Even going
the best
back
part about
to, like,
him is the 1-year contract. It's like a prove it deal. You saw the safety market kind of explode a little bit. The Jets are giving Andre Sisco a real opportunity here to ball out and get paid, whether it's with the Jets or someone else.
Yeah, and I think his play style is very similar to like a Kirby Joseph. We're gonna go back 100%. To Detroit. And it's like, this is a guy that can really be a playmaker and can create turnovers.
That's what the Jets defense struggled with the most under Saleh, is creating turnovers. We were so good at everything but that. So hopefully we can start doing that on defense.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you have a revolving door next to Quinnen Williams, you could do worse players than Nadi. Nadi's a very good run defender. So I thought that was a pretty solid addition. But I mean, we could turn tail to the offense, right? Because Justin Fields is kind of the guy we need to talk about the most. Former first round pick Bears, they move up. They give up significant draft capital to go get him. Didn't quite work out there. Then he was with Pittsburgh last year. I think he started the first 4 games. Looked okay, but he had them winning games, and they just went right to Russell Wilson when he was good, or healthy, I should say. So what is the feeling with Justin Fields?
Yeah, I think with Justin Fields, before we get into what he's looked like so far with the Jets at OTAs in camp, my opinion on Justin Fields in Chicago and Pittsburgh is this is a quarterback that had so much confidence and was an absolute baller at Ohio State. And he was dealt the wrong cards in Chicago. That's no debate. Everyone knows that it was a mess, the offensive line, whatever the case may be. And that season where the Bears won like 3 games, Justin Fields statistically put up 1,100 yards on the ground. He was a playmaker. He's got it all, but the team around him was just a mess. They give up on him. He goes to Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson's injured in camp. Okay, all of a sudden Fields is starting week 1. And he goes out there. He doesn't ball, but he plays winning football. He understands how to protect the football, which is important. Only turned the ball over once through the air. Had 9 total touchdowns, 1,100 yards. And of course, there's some things he still needs to improve on. But I genuinely don't think that Justin Fields was ever given a legit opportunity to take a franchise over the top. The Bears tried, and it was just an absolute mess from their perspective. But what the New York Jets are doing with Justin Fields is a very unique situation. It's a quarterback like Fields' dream to have an organization like the Jets say, hey, we have a brand new head coach. Everything is brand new, and you're going to be our quarterback. You have an opportunity to develop yourself here and be lockstep with us for the long term. We're going to give you all the support system you need. We're going to build an offensive system around you. Where the Steelers were like, we have this offensive system, you need to learn this one, right? It's different with the Jets. We're building a system for you. So I think so far, Justin Fields have been very impressive at OTAs and camp. But listen, there's no pads. A lot of quarterbacks can look good that way. I'm not reading too much into it. But you talk to any Jets beat reporter that goes to practice, they're coming away with, wow, I did not realize the narrative around Fields is he can't throw. He's throwing dimes left and right. He's making the right reads. He's showing off his arm talent, and his arm talent is there. He could throw the football, but what his issues is holding on the ball too long, not being able to scan the field, go through his progressions. That is what's going to make or break his career with the New York Jets. Can he process the field? Can Tanner Engstrand and the offensive coaching staff and Aaron Glenn simplify the game enough so it can click in Fields' head? Because I'll tell you right now, this is what the Jets' goal is. How can they unlock that Ohio State Justin Fields of where he was confidence-wise when he stepped onto that field knowing where the ball needed to go? Garrett Wilson, of course, is going to help out with that chemistry already. So that's really what the Jets' goal is, to try to unlock that mindset of Justin Fields.
Yeah, and I think the beautiful thing is the deal is structured in a way where you're not all in. If you want to go draft a quarterback in 2026, you can do that. If you want to hold out for another year, you can go draft a quarterback in 2027. So
yeah,
I like that.
And I think it's low risk, and I'm happy you brought that up, because what's the worst case scenario? Fields stinks, right? Okay, let's move on. And then we have the 2026 class, which is loaded with quarterbacks. Yep. And then you get one there. So, but what if Fields balls? Okay, then he's our guy. So I think in the contract allows that to happen, where there's not that much risk involved. It's not like we signed Fields to a 4-year, $180 million deal or anything like that. It's 2 years, $40 million. If they wanted to get out of it this year, they can. So I think it's a very low risk move, where the best case scenario, he balls out. If he doesn't, we're going to the 2026 class to try to find our guy.
Exactly. And probably the last name I want to bring up here that they acquired in free agency is Josh Myers. Is he competition or is he depth?
Yeah. You know what? I'm happy you brought that up, because when he got signed, everyone's like, yeah, that's a depth piece. Yeah. But now there's some little rumblings like, oh, wait, could that be a competition? Because Joe Tippmann is our center. He is starting, right? He is the starter. But the one thing about Tippmann is he does have some snap issues out of the shotgun. He had that with Rodgers. And I think that's going to light a fire underneath Tippmann. And that's a great thing, man. I want competition in every single position. I'm a big fan of Joe Tippmann. Great second-round pick for Joe Douglas out of Wisconsin. And I think that there's going to be a little bit of competition. If Tippmann starts struggling, knowing how this coaching staff works, I would not be shocked if Myers does replace him just because of the veteran ability, having that chemistry with Justin Fields. But I believe in Tippmann enough and his talent enough where he's not going to go anywhere. He's going to be the starting center for this Jets football team for hopefully a long, long time. But we'll get into this offensive line because it is youthful, and I'm excited about that position out of everything.
Yeah, and it's a lot of depth. And I mean, we'll get into it when we get to the draft, but I loved that strategy. I thought that was immediately what the Jets should have done at pick 7, because you just look at Aaron Glenn, where he's coming from. Like there was a team that heavily invested in the offensive line. They were a top 2, top 3 offensive line.
Exactly.
During his whole career there. It's like, let's get the offensive line in shape.
Yeah. And then the player that the Lions drafted the first year Glenn and Campbell took over that draft, who it was? Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, right?
Kind of a stud.
Right tackle stud. I'm not saying Membu is still yet, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and pivot to the draft. As y'all ended up taking Armand Membu. I projected him relatively early on, going at number 7 after his performance at the combine. I kind of figured he was going to blow it up, and I was happy that he was starting to get some of that, like, oh, maybe he's OT1. Because, dude, there was a big stigma in this draft class where it's like, man, we have all these tackles that might be guards in the NFL. And he kind of had a little bit of that stigma because of his build. But it's like the length is fine. The movement skills are phenomenal. And I just, dude, plug and play at right tackle. He played right tackle for Mizzou. He's going to come in and he's going to do that. He's going to replace Morgan Moses. And it kind of feels like the final piece to that offensive line.
Absolutely. And you look at the Jets offensive line heading into the offseason, there was one hole and then depth. And that hole was right tackle. And the big debate was, do we go after, a mid-round guy and go after a tight end in the first round or a different playmaker? Or do we just say, hey, let's plug in this hole with arguably the best tackle in the draft with Armand Membu? And then let's not forget who the Jets drafted 2 years ago, Olu Fashanu. Now all of a sudden the New York Jets have 2 first-round picks on their left tackle and right tackle, hopefully for the next decade. That's if everything works out. They both stay healthy. They both extended beyond their rookie contracts. But now you look at the Jets offensive line with Membu. You got him at right tackle. You got Fashanu at left tackle. You got Joe Tippmann at center, who's a second-round pick. And then Elijah Vera Tucker, who's a former first-round pick at right guard, who's entering his final year under contract. So I think that draft pick of Armand Membu made way too much sense. He had one hole to fill. Why not fill it with a premium spot at that 7th overall pick? So I absolutely love it.
Oh, yeah. That felt like, in spirit, a Joe Douglas pick, man. He loves
it did. And when we're and like Jets fans are like, oh, look at how set our offensive line is. People are like, oh, I hate Joe Douglas. I mean, Joe Douglas brought in 4 of the 5 offensive linemen that we're all raving about, man. Like, I'm not someone that has any ill will against Joe Douglas. I think that his vision of this offensive line is finally here, and I can guarantee you, like what you said, if Douglas was the GM, he would have made the same draft pick of Armand Membu at number 7 if he was still with us.
Yeah, 100%. And then in round 2, y'all got a tight end because you were looking at that tight end group and you were like, woof. Holy moly, we need a guy.
Not brutal.
Just a guy. Yeah. Because what, it would have been Ruckert probably heading in as the starter.
Yeah, we signed Stone Smart from the Chargers. And then Zach Kuntz still is on his roster for some reason just because he had a good athletic rack score or whatever.
Yeah, he's a freak, man. Hey, I don't mind betting on a freak. I like that. Yeah. He was a guy that was like, you know what? I wouldn't mind betting on that crazy athleticism. But you get Mason Taylor, who's kind of like the best of both worlds. He's a relatively solid blocker. Not saying he's like the best blocking tight end in this class, but it wasn't an area you were very concerned about, especially if you're going to see a lot of movement in the offense, a lot of motion. I think he's at his best when he is blocking on the move. If you go back to the 2023 LSU team, he was downfield blocking a lot for Malachi Starks, Brian Thomas, when they would just dump off these screens. He was going downfield making plays, but also as a receiver, brings a really good aspect to that. He had a lot of clutch catches for LSU over the last couple of years. Man, my light just keeps dying and fading.
It's because you're hyping up Mason Taylor. It can't handle the energy.
Yeah, I know, man. What are you, an Alabama fan?
Man, Mason Taylor fires me up. I think, going into day 2 of the draft, if you asked every single Jets fan that woke up on Friday morning who they want the Jets to draft, it was Mason Taylor. It was every Jets fan wanted him. His father played for the Jets. We have a giant hole at tight end. Some Jets fans wanted to go Tyler Warren or a first-round pick at the tight end spot. So the fact that Taylor was sitting there and we got him, I think he's a perfect plug and play. I think I've never been more confident in a rookie tight end to come into this building and execute what he's asked for. I'm not expecting to light it up like Brock Bowers did as a rookie, but I think he could be Sam Laporta. I mean, you look at what Sam Laporta did with Detroit. He was an early second-round pick for them. He came in as a rookie and balled. He balled in year number 2. I really do think that he's so reliable, and that's he feels like a professional. It's not like this is a guy that's going to be a rookie and have these crazy hiccups, which is probably going to happen. I mean, every rookie has those rookie days, rookie games, rookie drops, penalties, but he just feels like a pro's pro that I got a lot of confidence in where, on third down, you need a big time play. He's just reliable, just gets open, Fields finds him underneath, and he picks up that first down, or he gets that clutch touchdown in the end of the game. I just feel like Mason Taylor is exactly what this offense needed. And I'm not going to sleep on Ruckert because you talk about Myers, you talk about Wilson, but Ruckert was teammates with Justin Fields. And I think Ruckert's a perfect number 2 tight end in this offense that he could really unleash himself. He's not good enough to be number 1 by any stretch of imagination. But I feel like with the number 2 role with Justin Fields, you never know what he can bring to the table as well.
Yeah, I actually had to look it up when you said his dad was a former Jet. I was like, what? Hold on.
Yeah.
That later part of his career. I know him as a Dolphins legend. Matter of fact, I have Mason's uncle's jersey right here as well.
You're like, that hurt you. You're like, what do you mean he's a former Jet?
Yeah, hold on.
Jet. He's ours guy.
So let's talk about your boy, Azareye'h Thomas, man.
Yeah, it's my guy.
3rd round pick.
Dude, Azareye'h Thomas, like I said the story earlier, I mean, when the Jets drafted him, I couldn't believe it. Because I was telling all my subscribers, you guys have no idea. This is the guy I was at the Senior Bowl, and I was like, this guy looks like Sauce. This is the guy who the Jets should draft to replace DJ Reed, and they actually did it. I wasn't expecting it. And the funny thing about AZ is during the Senior Bowl, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're the draft guru here, he was projected late first round, early second round, and then he went to the combine and kind of had a really bad showing, did not run the 40 well, and then his draft stock kind of got a hit a little bit, and then he fell to the 3rd round. I think the value for AZ Thomas is fantastic. I think his game speed is way better than his 40-yard dash. He has unique ball skills that I really like. He has a length, and I don't know if you saw the video, but what Aaron Glenn said to him when the Jets drafted him was just perfect for who Aaron Glenn is. He's like, you're going to press these guys and choke them out or something like that. Like, it's all about press man coverage. So the visualizing Sauce on one side and AZ Thomas on the other side, press man coverage, that's what Aaron Glenn's dream is, and it's coming to fruition, hopefully. So I think the Jets got a potential steal. He hasn't stepped foot on the football field just yet, but I like AZ Thomas in the 3rd round for the Jets.
Yeah, no, he definitely... During the Senior Bowl week, you saw guys like Daniel Jeremiah, Todd McShay. They were like, oh, man, this guy could be a late first, maybe early second. I was kind of in that top 50 area with him because I was like, okay, there's some real speed concerns. He's going to have to go to the right system. And then he actually opted not to run his 40 at the Senior Bowl at the Combine. I think it was the Pro Day where he ended up running a suboptimal, let's just call it that. But, I mean, we saw that a year ago from Georgia corner Kamari Lassiter, who had a banger year for the Texans. It all comes down to system, and we're talking about system. Aaron Glenn, this is perfect. Press man, let this man lay hands on. Like, speed's not going to be a problem because this was the same thing with like a Richard Sherman. Yeah, you're only going to be as fast as I'm willing to let you because I'm going to lay hands on you, and that is where Thomas needed to go.
And Glenn made it a comparison to Brian Branch as well, and the Lions drafted him. He had a bad 40 time. He's faster on the field than it is in the 40-yard dash, and I think that there's going to be a unique role for AZ Thomas. It's a perfect scheme fit, and I think that having Brandon Stevens coming from Baltimore, where he struggled. I mean, you turn on Stevens' film last year, he got torched. It's just like, felt like he was, where's Stevens? Let's target him because he cannot turn his head around and find the football. So I think that's a perfect little comparison there. And there are some clips of AZ Thomas strapping up Garrett Wilson at practice. I mean, and I love Garrett Wilson, but to see AZ Thomas strap him up in the red zone and like show some energy, I'm like, okay, like that's what we like to see. And the fact that Sauce is now becoming that young veteran that he can kind of teach Azareye'h some of the things he's learned, and Sauce is a 2-time first-team All-Pro, I think Azareye'h Thomas has a future here, and he's the perfect example. And, Aaron Glenn being a former corner with the Jets, it's just cool that that's the first draft pick that he has with the New York Jets to kind of develop into his own.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't recall because we had a lot of corners get paid this offseason. Has Sauce got his contract yet?
Not yet. No, not yet. So there's reports about Sauce and Garrett both expected to get their deals before training camp. You never know. Things can change. But the Jets are expected to keep on working. They're working through it, and hopefully it gets done. Both of them, Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner.
I imagine it gets done some way, somehow, regardless.
Please, because you got to do that.
Let's get to day 3 because this is, in my opinion, I thought it was the worst pick. Arian Smith. I know the man at the Senior Bowl suddenly popped up and showed that he had hands. Maybe he was on the jug machine. This was a dude that just historically, through his whole time at Georgia, could not catch the football. He felt more like track star than actual NFL player. I was getting like Anthony Schwartz flashbacks, and see him go as high as the fourth. Because I mean, speed kills, I guess, right?
Yeah,
speed kills, and
that was a trait pick, 100% a trait pick, no doubt about it. That's a risky one. I mean, on day 3, you can take these risks, which I will say, in the 4th round, you take a flyer at the wide receiver spot. And if you look at the wide receiver position for the Jets, that's the one trait that they are missing. Garrett Wilson's fantastic, but he's not that blazer that will just beat you deep on a vertical route, right? There's no one on the roster at that position that we have that can beat you with straight speed. So the Jets are rolling the dice on a guy that had drop issues that can run fast, and maybe he can develop the hands. I'm not going to sit here and expect that. He did flash at OTAs, but hey, who's not going to flash at OTAs with no pads and no contact? His issue is going to be not just catching the football, but running routes at the next level. Can he absorb the physicality when he gets pressed? We talk about press for Azareye'h Thomas. Is he going to be able to get off the line against a guy like Sauce at the next level in practice when they have the pads on? They get really handsy and all that stuff. So I don't know. This Jets receiver room is an interesting conversation outside of Garrett Wilson. It's open for competition for that number 2, number 3 spot. Even Malachi Corley, our draft pick 2 years ago, we're interested to see what his role is going to be as a gadget type of receiver. So the Arian Smith draft pick was a huge head scratcher for every single person amongst Jets Nation, and you just got to hope that he can figure out a way to provide some impact, because that's a big risk the Jets are making at that spot.
Yeah, I think probably you kind of said it earlier. It was a trades pick. Variety is the spice of life when it comes to the wide receiver room, and you needed that vertical speedster. If that's all he's coming in to be, then I think that's fine. I think that's
just catch it. If he's wide open down the field and Fields drops in the bucket, you better catch that thing, man. Because I can. There's going to be a play 100% this season where Fields puts up a beautiful 40-yard moon ball, and it's in the breadbasket. He drops it. I can just tell it, and it's going to be everywhere. But hey, he'll catch the next one. That's all that matters.
Yeah. So also in the 4th round, you grab Malachi Moore, which I actually
he's my favorite pick.
I was going to say, I like that pick a lot. You want to talk about a veteran player. He was a veteran player for Nick Saban, and I mean, Kalen DeBoer last year as well. But veteran player that has experience in the slot. That's kind of where I liked him, like projection-wise in the NFL. But last year, he showed he could be more of a traditional safety type. Tons of special teams experience. Showed the ball skills last year. So I was pretty excited about that, because I think that kind of like that's just a good fit if you're gonna have these have like a guy like Andre Sisco on a 1-year deal. Have you extended Michael Carter yet?
So we extended him before last season.
Okay.
Yeah, but then he had an injured-riddled season and didn't really play well.
Yeah, which I mean that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think the role for him is the Brian Branch role. You see how the Lions utilize Brian Branch, where he's not just a slot, he's everywhere. He's out, he's all over the place. And I think that's the vision. If I would see a role for Malachi where he would be on this defense, he could either compete for that starting safety position next to Sisco, because Tony Adams right now is a starter, undrafted guy with Saleh and Douglas, and he kind of struggled last season. So I think that position's up for grabs. And I think in certain packages, certain looks, you can get him on the field in certain dime looks or dollar looks. They can get creative. And I love that you bring up the veteran essence, because it's rare you bring in someone out of the draft and you can say he's a veteran, right? He was a veteran for one of the most stable programs in college football in Alabama, and the fact that he's a 2-time captain there, the orchestrator of that defense, communicating, that's what the defense needs. You need to have, the secondary all on the same page, because all it takes is one miscommunication and you get beat deep, or you give up that touchdown. It's not even, talent. It's just communication is everything in the secondary. So I like that he's bringing that energy here to a brand new system, brand new culture, trying to be established here with Aaron Glenn's New York Jets. So I really love that pick. He's my favorite pick in day 3.
Nice. Yeah. And y'all wrapped it up with a couple of Hurricane players. I believe both were 5th, right? Or was 6th for Barron? Okay, but Tyler Barron, who I thought should win higher than where he ended up getting. Yeah,
you're the Miami guy, so I want to hear your insight on these two.
Yeah, well, when it comes to Maui Noah, the linebacker. He's a thumper.
Maui Noah, because I always say his name wrong, so I really need to hear it right.
Yeah,
Maui
well, his
Noah.
brother is going to probably be a first-round tackle in 2026. So,
oh, is he?
Yeah,
he's tackle or offensive tackle?
Offensive tackle. He's pretty darn good. He plays the right side, and golly, this dude can move. But Francisco, he's a thumper. He's got special teams experience. He's exactly the type of linebacker you probably want to get mid to late day 3. Mm-hmm. But Tyler Barron, he might not have like the high end speed or explosiveness, but he's pretty well put together.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. He has like an NFL build.
Yeah, exactly. He was former Tennessee, transfers to Miami, was very productive. I believe like his pass rush win rate was actually pretty gnarly last year. Pretty sure. I don't need to pull it up, but I think it was in like the 20%. He was really good for us last year, and I think if you're trying to find a guy who could come in and kind of be a good rotation player, like similar to like a Michael Clemens, I think Barron's the guy.
Who hopefully replace Clemens, because Jets fans hate Michael Clemens.
Really?
So that's what we were hoping for. We're wondering how he's still on the roster. Maybe he has a breakout under this coaching staff. But I like Tyler Barron, our last pick, because he brings that. When I saw his tape, immediately thought of like he similar to Jermaine Johnson without the explosiveness, and just in terms of the body type and the what he's good at, and can he set the edge. And the defensive end position is an interesting one for the Jets. We got Will McDonald, who put on 15 pounds of muscle this offseason, changed his number to 9 single digits. And I know some people like, who cares about he changed his number? Sometimes you get that single digit on, it levels up their game. Coming off 10.5 sacks. I think Will McDonald is going to be the breakout party, even though you can argue he broke out last year. I think he has 13 to 15 sacks if he can actually stay healthy for this Jets team. Jermaine Johnson is coming off an Achilles injury. Don't really know what to expect from him coming off that tough injury. So that's going to open up Tyler Barron as a rookie to get some playing time. You got Michael Clemens above him. There's not a lot of guys like Braden McGregor, undrafted free agent last year, still on this team. So I think that Tyler Barron, he's going to have an opportunity to prove himself and work his way up the depth chart as a rookie this year.
Yeah, and this is actually a perfect segue to any like UDFAs that have maybe stuck out. I know we're early in the camp. They're not even really playing with pads, but anyone that has like stuck out that was a undrafted free agent.
Yeah, I mean, we brought in Brady Cook as our quarterback, and, the devastating news that happened, not devastating, but it's pretty unfortunate with the retiring of Jordan Travis, right? And that came in an interesting time. The Jets were expected to draft a quarterback. Like, some people are like, the Jets are going to draft a quarterback to sit behind Justin Fields. They elected not to draft any quarterback, and then they bring in Brady Cook, an undrafted free agency. And, I mean, there's really nothing I can tell you about Brady Cook, what he did in camp, very quiet. Him and Adrian Martinez are competing for that third quarterback position next to Tyrod Taylor. But, Caden Davis, the kicker, we just signed another kicker, the big boy, but he's someone that's competing for the starting kicker spot, undrafted free agent. And Donovan Edwards, Michigan running back, he's competing for that fourth running back spot behind Isaiah Davis, Braylon Allen, and Breece Hall, which I think is really fun. Jamal Pritchett from South Alabama, the wide receiver. Yeah. He's been the one receiver that's really been stepping up. I was interested to see Quentin Skinner from Kansas, who's really long and like 6'5". I thought he was going to make a name for himself, but it's been more Jamal Pritchett making his name more announced. But outside of that, man, there's not really too much that's been really stepping up. And I think Donovan Edwards is that running back forward that's going to try to make the team. Jamal Pritchett, maybe a special teams role. And then I'm excited to see what Brady Cook can look like, because he looked really good 2 years ago out of Missouri, and they kind of had a down year last year.
Yeah, Skinner's an interesting one because I saw Steve Smith kind of give him a shout out on his channel. And I mean, hey, Steve Smith, he just knows wide receivers. And
like
Skinner,
recently, or?
It was actually prior to the draft.
Oh, okay.
It almost, because Skinner wasn't a guy that I got to with my final evals. And I saw that, I was like, I really should go and watch him. Really should. I mean, freaking Steve Smith, of all people, is coming out talking about him. But I was just kind of curious to hear because I didn't get a chance to watch him.
Yeah, he hasn't really shined much. There's actually another player I want to bring up who's Jordan Clark, safety from Notre Dame, the son of Ryan Clark. And Aaron Glenn and Ryan Clark have a friendship somewhat. So I don't know if that's was like, hey, I'll bring your son in and see what he can do here. But we'll see if he can make the team. I'm a big fan of undrafted free agents. It's one of my favorite things to watch. Who makes the 53-man roster, who doesn't. The Jets have a lot of former undrafted free agents that's on this team. Xavier Gibson, wide receiver, who are seeing if is he going to make this team. Leonard Taylor III, undrafted free agent. Bryce Huff no longer with us, but he was a great story. So the Jets do have some history with undrafted free agents making the team and making some impacts.
Yeah, and with that being said, let's just go ahead and get to this roster in general, because, again, there's a lot of excitement towards this. Well, I want to start with the offensive end. We've kind of already talked about Justin Fields. If things go awry with him or if he gets hurt, you got a trusted backup there in Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
Who I actually played against in high school, which is kind of wild.
No way.
Yeah, he went to Hampton High School.
I heard.
No. No, but I went to Bethel, so it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. It's the only, I think, NFL player that I actually got to play with.
Tyrod's a dog. I love Tyrod. He's, in my opinion, one of the best backup quarterbacks you can have.
Oh, yeah. You're in a good spot. Again, there's not many backups out there that really will, like, you feel confident in, like, okay, if he has to play like 2, 3, 4 games, can he win us games? Tyrod's one of those guys that can win games. Certainly.
I agree.
But you talked about the offensive line depth.
Yeah.
Golly. I think there's some depth here. So is Max Mitchell moving into guard?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he's still lining up at tackle, but he's played guard before. I think they're using him all over the place. The previous regime had him at guard, had him at tackle. The Jets had so many injuries of the offensive line the last few years, so he's been worked everywhere. I'm pretty sure Max Mitchell has played left tackle, right tackle, and kicked in at guard at certain times. You know, the depth is going to be interesting for the offensive line in terms of the competition at that spot. And I definitely think that he's someone that they're going to be molding into a guard/tackle role.
Yeah, and then you got Carter Warren, who you're kind of still developing, got thrown out there last year, and, you know, rookies are going to look like rookies. It's just not. Was he even a rookie last year? He's actually from the prior draft class, right?
Yeah, he's entering year 3, I think. Yeah, he's entering year number 3.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like if injury does occur, you have some guys that are flexible that can move around. Because
and that's the thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have the versatility with Elijah Vera Tucker, who can kick out at tackle. Something goes down. Yeah,
Elijah Vera Tucker's versatility has been awesome. He's entering his last year under contract, his 5th-year options this year, and I'm a big fan of AVT. His issues was always injuries, and he finally was healthy this past year. And a lot of people assumed, is it because he's moving around everywhere that he gets hurt because he doesn't have a home? But now he has a home at right guard, and I hope everyone can stay healthy, man. But because I think the depth is decent, but the starting 5 of this offensive line, if they can just stay healthy, man, and gain chemistry, like, it's the best I've seen since the Jets were last in the playoffs in 2009, 2010 with that offensive line. That's how they went so far with Mark Sanchez.
Yeah. No, I mean, compared to, like, most teams, I think the Jets have probably pretty darn solid depth on the offensive line. It's pretty hard to have, like, let alone 5 good starters, but to have maybe like 1 or 2 guys you feel comfortable with being able to step in for a game or 2. And I think, Josh Myers is kind of huge there.
And the youth is like the best part, in my opinion. The oldest guy is Simpson, who's 27 years old. Like,
beautiful.
Veterans are great. And I think Tyron Smith being here last year is only going to benefit Olu, because he got to sit and learn behind Tyron Smith, who's arguably one of the best left tackles of our generation, and he had Morgan Moses to learn from. So I think that tutelage was great. You saw so much great flashes of Olu last year, especially his pass protection against Seattle last year. He only played 6 games, but in a small sample size, he looks fantastic at pass protection. So I think there's a lot of upside on this offensive line. I'm not going to expect him to be dominant right away, but I think as the season goes on and they stay healthy, it's only going to get better from there.
Yeah, and I mean, another position you have a lot of depth at is running back, and kind of the elephant in the room is Breece Hall. Is he him? Fantasy fans, they don't know what to do
right?
when it comes to Breece Hall.
Dude, Breece Hall is one of those guys that you want to look at. His first 6 games in his rookie season was so explosive, and then he tears his ACL. and then you're waiting for him to get back to that. And I think a lot of it was misusage last year. Last year's Jets season was a mess. We talked about it, of course. The offensive line, the scheme, everything was a disaster. But then 2 years ago, Brees was second in the NFL in scrimmage yards behind Christian McCaffrey. And he had 994 yards on the ground. I think this is the year where we're finally going to see who Brees Hall truly is. He's going to be given the opportunity. He's going to be a 3-down back. He's going to be utilized as a receiver. He's going to be all over the place. I'm not going to sit here and say, draft Brees Hall in fantasy, because I'm usually that guy every year, and say, hey, what's going on with Brees? He has 40 points this week, and then he doesn't get the ball the next week. But I think they are going to be doing an everybody eats approach too. They're going to get Braylon Allen the ball. Isaiah Davis is someone to watch out for as well. But I think the Jets are going to utilize Brees Hall as a weapon, similar to how the Lions utilize Jahmyr Gibbs. And the question is Brees Hall that guy that we all saw at, in college? I mean, he was an absolute monster out of college, breaking the record for most consecutive games with a rushing touchdown. We're all waiting for that explosiveness to come back, taking 60-yard touchdowns left and right, catching out of the backfield, making people miss in the open field. I really do believe in Brees, and there's a lot of trade rumors around him because he's entering a contract year, and when you're entering a contract year, that's where, especially with a brand new coaching staff and a new regime, that's where people are starting to question, is Brees on the trade block? I hope not. I hope he breaks out and he extends here long term because I love Brees.
Yeah, running backs on like the last year of deals, those are just hard pieces to move. Yeah. Most teams are just going to let those guys hit free agency and go after them. But the thing working in Brees' favor is that pass catching upside. You're not getting that from Isaiah Davis. You're not getting that from Braylon Allen. But I guess it's
he's
nice
got wide receiver hands.
Exactly.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, that catch he had, I don't know if you remember, week 2 against Tennessee, where Rodgers threw it up in the end zone. He literally mossed someone. And I'm like, it looked like Garrett Wilson, And Justin Fields even said in a press conference, what's your impressions of Brees? He's just like saying, I'm impressed with his natural hands. Like, he does not look like a running back. When you could tell running backs are running backs when they try to catch the football in practice. But like, Brees just has this seamless hands that you can just give him the ball and he can catch it and run. He can go up there and get it. He can catch one-handed passes. So the Jets got to utilize him as a weapon, man. Not just a running back, but as a weapon.
Yeah, and that's the thing of like a guy like Donovan Edwards makes the roster. He has that pass catch capability. So if the plan is maybe to move off of Brees, I could definitely see Edwards.
And Braylon Allen, too, is a guy that some people like, oh, we could move off of Brees because Braylon Allen, people think could be a bell cow in this league if given the opportunity.
Yeah, Derrick
He's just a bruiser, right? He's just a monster, and he's training with Derrick Henry in the offseason. He's super young, like 21, 22 years old, one of the youngest players in the league. That's someone I'm excited for in year number 2. He showed a lot of flashes last year.
Yeah, I think he was the youngest player coming out of that draft class, too. It was kind of a shocker because he was coming off a down year at Wisconsin. It was like the first year of, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on their head coach's name, but it was like the first year. He's like former Cincinnati coach, so it was like he was dealing with the scheme change.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was more of this wide open offense that just I didn't think really benefit Allen.
It didn't fit a guy like him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And he looks like he's a grown man.
I know.
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Can you bring some clarity to this wide receiver room?
Yeah, I got you.
Why is Allen Lazard still on the roster?
Well, funny enough, he took a pay cut. So I think the Jets approached Lazard, and they said, hey, listen, it's either we cut you, trade you, or you take a pay cut. The only way you're staying with us is if we restructure your contract and you take a pay cut. And Lazard said yes to that. And after that, I'm like, you know what? I got some respect for you, Allen, because a lot of Jets fans hate this guy for a lot of reasons. He's an Aaron Rodgers guy. He's only here for Aaron. Why is he still here? We're getting rid of all Rodgers people. Why is Allen still here? And the Jets are trying to do something with this receiver room, which is unique. Aaron Glenn has this mantra: no block, no rock, or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you don't block at the wide receiver position, there you go. If you don't block at the wide receiver spot, you're not getting the ball. If there's one thing I know Lazard can do is block, and he is semi-reliable. He has a lot of penalty issues and drops the ball a lot. But he took a pay cut. They restructured his deal. And I don't think he's going anywhere. I think everyone's going to keep linking him to get traded to Pittsburgh, which, hey, I'm not going to rule out, because if Rodgers says he wants him and then the Steelers like, yeah, we got you, and maybe it'll work itself out. But the Jets receiver room is such an interesting dynamic because a lot of Jets fans are saying, we need a trade for a number 2. We need support around Garrett. We need a number 2. We need a number 2. in my opinion, I think this Jets wide receiver room is good the way it is because of how good Garrett Wilson is. And the number 2 spot, in my opinion, does not need to be a big name. It can just be a whole rotation of guys. Josh Reynolds is a very good quality veteran that succeeded with Detroit. Lazard, veteran. Xavier Gipson, Arian Smith will see, Malachi Corley, and Xavier Gipson. All those guys are not going to make the team. They're fighting for a spot. But I think with Garrett Wilson and the volume that he's getting, with Mason Taylor going to be heavily involved in the passing game, with Breece Hall heavily involved in the passing game, we don't need a trade for a guy like McLaurin, even though that'd be nice, or Chris Olave, or signing a veteran like Amari Cooper or a Keenan Allen. So I think this offense is going to be fine. I think, you look at the Buffalo Bills, they don't have a typical number 1 that executes and that works. I think some Jets fans are getting a little worried about the number 2 position at wide receiver, but I'm not.
Yeah, and I mean, not Tyler Johnson.
Tyler Johnson, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot about him.
Once upon a time.
I loved him coming out of the draft. I did. Yeah. And I feel like he's a young guy. He was shining in camp. I think if there was a number 2 receiver to emerge that no one sees coming, it is Tyler Johnson. He's been actually very impressive.
Yeah. And then Josh Reynolds last year, he was banged up. Yeah. So it was kind of like just people forgot about him. Like and I think they got a bunch with Detroit.
He was. That year we had like 8 touchdowns or something like that, 600, 700 yards, and he's going to be the veteran of the bunch. And I think the Jets got a lot of hungry guys next to Garrett Wilson, of course. And when you have a guy like GW, man, you don't really need to be super dependent on getting a star next to him, in my opinion, if you have a lot of quality guys next to him.
Exactly. So is it going to be a return to form for this defense?
That's a great question. I hope. But it's going to be a new shift of identity. And the cool thing about Steve Wilks and this coaching staff is that they're creating a brand new scheme. Like, people think, Steve Wilks, Glenn, it's going to be man coverage and blitzing. Yeah. Well, Steve Wilks says that they are going to cater their scheme to this personnel. And I think that's interesting, right? You look at who's on the roster with Sauce, Jamie Sherwood, Quincy Williams, Quinnen Williams, all these guys. How can we create a scheme that's going to maximize their strengths? So I don't know what the scheme's going to look like. I think that the Jets are talented enough to figure it out. Some people be like, yeah, well, Aaron Glenn with the Lions, his defense stunk his first 2 years. Well, look at the roster that he had when he first came to Detroit. Yeah. And then look where, how good they did at drafting and free agency that brought them to where they were. I think the roster that Aaron Glenn is inheriting with the Jets is way better than the Lions when he went there. So I think top 13, top 10 defensively is definitely a consideration, especially with a veteran defensive coordinator of Steve Wilks at the helm.
Yeah, I think early on, Aaron Glenn, he just didn't have the horses in Detroit to run his defense. Like, he likes press, he likes man, but they did dip into a lot of quarters, and they kept some of that last year for the most part. Yeah,
and it's going to be like an opportunistic defense. Like Jets defense under Saleh, what we're used to is more just 4-3, rushing 4, dropping 7 back, and hope that those 4 guys can get home. It's going to be a different experience here, and we did not see any turnovers.
100%.
Because it's going to be a completely different change where hopefully we see more turnovers. We may give up a lot more yards, but hopefully less points and more turnovers, and that's kind of the philosophy shift that we're going to have to get used to here with this new scheme.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be a lot of blitzing. Last year, Aaron Glenn.
Quincy Williams is a monster blitzing, so I hope that he gets sent.
Exactly.
That's someone that I'm excited to see run up the A-gaps.
Yeah,
that his brother opens up for him.
Aaron Glenn's Detroit Lions, they were second in the league with a 34.6 blitz rate. So
wow. And look up Steve Wilks' number. He's all the way up there, too, all the places he went.
And I like that. I like that type of aggression because, like, not a lot of teams can just... I've never been a fan of teams that didn't dip into the blitz. And if you are on the lower end of the spectrum, I don't think you're being creative. This is kind of like... yeah, exactly. But Gus Bradley was notoriously like a low blitz rate year after year. He wanted his front four to win and win consistently. He would throw stunts here and there, but it's like when you know only 4 is coming, you could really scheme against that. If you think they're gonna get there quick because they got a really good 4 RPO game. It's just gonna be a numbers game. Can you make one guy miss? Because then we got blockers for you. So it's I like having that type of just exoticness to the defense. I guess that's the way to put it.
I missed that. The last time the Jets had that type of exoticness was Todd Bowles, because that's exactly what he brings, is exotic blitzes, disguise, the line of scrimmage. So I think it's going to be a unique shift that I think tailors towards what this Jets football team is about personnel-wise.
Yeah, which is kind of wild with Bowles right now. His defense is kind of on the struggle bus. But, I mean, he's got a lot of new moving parts, so I guess it kind of is what it is. What do you think is the deepest part of this defense? Where's the depth?
That's a great question. I really do think that the secondary, the corner room, is deeper than people think. With the addition of Stevens and A.Z. Thomas, with Quantez Stiggers, we still got JBC, Jarek Bernard Converse from LSU. We re-signed Isaiah Oliver, who could be a hybrid corner. Michael Carter II. I do like the cornerback room a lot. The defensive line is interesting because the defensive tackle spot, you can argue, is not deep because they're unproven. They're veterans, but we've never seen what they're like with the Jets. And then, on linebacker, I think it's top heavy. I think Jamie Sherwood and Quincy, you know what you're getting. I mean, those are two guys that are absolutely, and I'm excited to see Jamie Sherwood. He reminds, you could tell he learned under CJ Mosley. He is going to be, hopefully, CJ Mosley, but better for us. I know that's a lot of large shoes to fill, but he has that brains. And I think the linebacker position is good, but the depth behind both of those guys, a little questionable. We got Zaire Barnes, who's developing. We drafted the guy from Miami. So that's not as deep as we'd like. The weakest is safety. I mean, we don't really have anybody depth-wise at the safety position that I'm a little concerned about.
As a Dolphins fan, you're preaching to the choir. Our starters, I think, going into this season.
We're our backups.
Yeah. Ifeatu Melifonwu, who was a backup. He was banged up last year for Detroit, but he was a backup behind Branch and Joseph, and then Ashton freaking Davis, dude. We're in trouble, dude. We are in so much trouble.
I will say, Ashton Davis with the Jets, he was like the only guy that knew how to get interceptions for us. He was never a starter, but when he got on the field in a certain package, he would pick off Mahomes or just get a weird interception. Be like, all right, get Ashton on the field a little more. So you never know.
Well, I hope, because it sounds like we might be moving Jalen Ramsey for the right price fairly soon. And dude, that's I'm telling you. I'm going to get into it with TD. He's probably going to be the same. Bro, I don't know how you could look at that secondary and be like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Golly, dude. But yeah, how's Stiggers looking, man? He was a guy that I really liked coming out.
Yeah, he's someone that when was given an opportunity, he doesn't really have a lot of film yet as a rookie last year, but he's that ball hawk that you want to give some time to, and he's part of the reason why I picked corner as the depth of this defense, because I like Stiggers as a backup behind all the guys we have above him. And I think training camp is going to be interesting to see what he's capable of, because he looked like a baller in Canada, man. He really did. I was excited about him potentially be, the replacement of DJ Reed this year, because we all knew that he was never going to come back. But I think that he's intriguing. Him and JBC are the two guys that the Jets are going to try to develop on the back end of that roster spot.
Golly, I look at your cornerback room, and they're just big and long. Everybody. Golly.
Stevens and Thomas, the two acquisitions at that position this offseason in the draft and free agency. And, of course, you add Sauce to the mix. That's what the Jets want to do. Long, lanky, press you at the line of scrimmage, and hope the blitz can get home.
Yeah. And, defensive line, Quinnen Williams is still going to be Quinnen Williams. We'll see about Jermaine Johnson. Will McDonald, do you think he continues to take that next step? You said he gained weight, too.
Yeah, if you ask me who's the breakout star potentially on defense, it's Will McDonald, even though you can argue he broke out last year with double-digit sacks. He put on 15 pounds of muscle. His spin move is lethal. I mean, I can say he is... Max Crosby is the best spin move in the league, and I would argue Will McDonald's right beneath him. It's that unguardable. He's got the the bend is ridiculous, and now that he added some more muscle, I think you're going to see him out there on the field in run situations, because he needs to be able to set the edge a little bit more. He came into the league as a pure pass rusher, so I think we're going to see a little bit more. I think he has 13 to 15 sacks in him. I think he's that talented. He really is one of those guys that's unblockable. If you can just line him up one-on-one against a tackle, he can just set you up outside, do that lethal spin move inside, and you're done. His length, his size, he is someone I'm really excited about, man, because when the Jets drafted him, a lot of people questioned that pick from Joe Douglas, but now you're seeing the full potential of him. He's the breakout guy on defense for me. And when I say breakout, I mean breakout into people around the league.
I get what you're saying. I was talking
to people around the league know about him.
Yeah. I was talking to Dan Mitchell about Gregory Rousseau, and it's like you could argue he's already broken out, but like, can he get into that top 15, that top 10
exactly
of pass rushers?
Like nationally, because I feel like Will broke out with the Jets, but from a national standpoint, he hasn't broke out yet.
Yeah. And I mean, that's so clutch if you could get a pass rusher of that caliber. So clutch.
And it's sad because I said the same thing last year about Jermaine Johnson. I thought so much energy on Jermaine being like the guy. Like he was unbelievable to finish off his sophomore season. And then his third year, I was expecting him to be that guy, but of course tore his Achilles in week 2. Didn't get to see it come to fruition, but that opened up Will.
I feel you. Dolphins kind of in a similar boat
Phillips,
with Jalen Phillips, man.
The worst.
Yeah, it sucks. So much so we went out, got Chop Robinson. We're paying all this money to Bradley Chubb, who's also coming off an injury. So not even coming off an injury, coming off rehabbing from an injury.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, I hear that. I mean, without further ado, I think we should just get into the schedule at this point.
Yeah.
And because the Bills, by far, probably the easiest schedule, I think, among the division. I look at the Jets schedule and all their tough opponents they get at home. I feel like it's kind of vice versa with y'all. Y'all get Tampa on the road, you get the Bengals on the road, you get Baltimore on the road. That's going to be kind of a rough go.
You put it like that, I realize it's brutal. Yeah, I think the Jets schedule, the way I look at it, it's tough to start. And then after the bye week, there's a stretch of games at the end of the season that you look at the schedule and you're like, you know what? If they can figure themselves out, that could be a stretch. It's like after the Ravens game, I think they verse a few teams in a row you feel confident about. And it's football. You never know. Upsets happen, right? But I think the 100%. Schedule to start off is going to be tough. It's Pittsburgh, home opener. I mean, you talk about drama. You talk about must-see. It's ridiculous. I'm doing my event for that game, so all my subscribers are coming together to see that game together. And then you got the Buffalo Bills at home. You have 2 straight home games to start off the season. And then, it gets a little bit tricky. Week 3 is going to be fun. And then who do we got week 3? You have the schedule pulled up?
Yeah, okay. I got it.
That's Tampa, right? In Tampa?
Yeah. Y'all basically are going to be hanging around Florida for 2 weeks. You get Tampa.
Yeah, you got Monday night
Miami.
against the Dolphins on week 4. And then you got Dallas. And then you're in London. And then the Bengals, Panthers in that order. I don't remember if it's the exact order. I think by the bye week, after the first 8 games, if the Jets can be 3-5, I think that's a plus because I think that there's a possibility. This is how I look at the Jets this year. It's going to get ugly before it gets pretty.
Yeah.
There's going to be adversity that this team needs to face to figure themselves out. I'm not going into the season expecting dominance. I'm expecting them to get punched in the face early and Aaron Glenn to show what this team's about in terms of because that's how you develop a culture. That's how you develop an identity. It's about how do you respond when things go haywire? How do you respond when there's a tough injury or there's a tough loss? Like that's when you can really show who you are in this league. And the teams that are not able to withstand adversity were the Jets the last few years. They were abysmal with Robert Saleh handling that. So I'm curious to see how this Jets team does handle adversity. That's going to really make or break this team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking here after the bye. You have to go to Baltimore, face the Ravens, but I mean, the first team you play out of the bye is the dumpster fire known as the Cleveland Browns. So, that's not bad. The Patriots are going to be interesting, but definitely the second half of your schedule is so much easier. You talk about, you get the Falcons, but you get that one at home. You get the Dolphins at home. You go to the Jags, which they could be a mixed bag. Where are they going to be in year 1 of Liam Cohen? But then you end the year with the Saints. You get to face the Patriots in the Meadowlands. And you end the year with a Buffalo team that's probably not playing for anything.
Or everything, because we're going to win the division. I'm just kidding.
Oh, of course. Excuse me. Excuse my ignorance.
No, of course. I think that's the way I look at it, is the hope that the adversity strikes early, they figure themselves out, and they can go on a stretch there by winning those games against teams like Atlanta, teams like New England. And, I'm hoping that we could be competitive in the division. Ideally, we split with Miami, split with New England. And I would like to split with Buffalo, but, that's hard to say. And that's going to be an interesting task for this Jets team.
Yeah, so I asked, what would be the floor you think of this team? What would that win total look like?
The floor, it's tough. It's like I want to be super like optimistic and stuff, but I also have to have a sense.
We'll talk about a ceiling. Let's screw optimism at this point. Justin Fields sucks. He is who people think he is. Breece Hall, guess what? He's a scrub.
Man, with that mindset. Now, listen, we won 5 games last year, so I'm going to at least say the floor is a game above that. 6. I would say 6-7 wins is the floor because there's no way they match that 5-win total. I refuse to believe it with the talent that we have. Like, it's a brand new coach, brand new quarterback, but I still wholeheartedly believe in the talent of the roster that we just broke down. I really believe there's talent on this team if the coaching staff can put them all together.
Yeah, I believe that way too. I went ahead and for my floor, I went to that 5 wins because I was like, it can't be worse than last year. And if Justin Fields isn't a starting quarterback, then it's like you're gonna want to be in position to compete for that first overall pick. And I feel like 5 wins probably puts them in that competition, maybe 6. But hey, let's get optimistic. Let's talk about a ceiling for this squad.
See, this is where my delusional cap wants to come on. If everything clicks, man, it's there's one person that needs to click. It's Justin Fields. If Justin Fields can have a Sam Darnold breakout, a Baker Mayfield breakout party, and he lights it up, and all of a sudden people are like, whoa, where'd that come from? I could see 10 wins, but that is where I'm going to cap it at, 10. I can't go above that. I think 11 is definitely a little Delulu land. Even 10 wins you can stretch of being a delusional. The Jets have not won double-digit games since 2015. So I think the X factor of that is Justin Fields. Can he process the field? Can he make the right reads? Can everything come together? Can he put up, the numbers that we're expecting? Because if that does happen, Justin Fields has elite traits. Talk about traits. His mobility, his athleticism, his ability to make people miss, that's an elite trait. But he can't process the field. That's what's most important. You're not going to be a starting quarterback by being able to run around all over the place. Look at Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson figured it out mentally. He's a 2-time MVP. If Fields can figure it out mentally, I'm not going to say he's an MVP candidate, but he has that dynamic playmaking ability where if you can start processing the field, go through your progressions, be a pocket passer on top of all of that, mix in with his talent, 12 wins. How about that? I don't know.
Well, I was with you early on. I have the ceiling about 9 to 10 wins. I think I settled on 9 because it's just, golly, having to go face Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Tampa on the road. Those are going to be teams playing for playoff positions. If you could come out of that, I don't know if they could come out of it 2-1, but 1-2. I feel like the rest of your schedule seems pretty manageable. And again, you get a Buffalo team that's probably not going to play for anything late. I could see that being a victory. But I mean, I guess it comes down to how much you believe in Justin Fields. And again, this is a first-year head coach.
Yeah.
So I'm cool.
I got to tame my expectations because of that reason. You know what makes teams like the Buffalo Bills so fantastic is continuity. Same system, same coach, same quarterback. The Jets don't have that. Everything's brand new. There's going to be a lot of learning curves. And that's something I'm definitely reminding myself that it takes some time to install a new scheme, install new everything. So that's why I'm hopeful it can click in the second half of the year because I think the first half is going to be a lot of bumps.
Yeah, I think y'all are heading in the right direction when it comes to continuity, though. You got the culture guy, you got the head coach going forward. You'll find out if you have the quarterback, and if you don't, then cool, you're going to just draft one. I think they're headed completely in the right direction. And I mean,
man.
Shoot, you want to talk about expectations. As a Dolphins fan, I never have expectations. I'm dead inside. If they win, they win. They make the playoffs. At least I know we have the consistency and the continuity to lose the wild card. So
that's true. The Dolphins have been doing the same thing for years. Hopefully they can get off their hump for you. Not for me.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to get into the Tua talk. That's
a TD. That's gonna be fun. I got to tune into that one.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. I'm not a Tua truther, but I'm also not a Tua denier.
Hater.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know what? He's a middle of the league quarterback that held a gun to our head and we had to pay him.
Yeah, that's true. And he's like, show me the money in training camp last year, too.
Yeah. Hey, at least y'all aren't in that hell.
Yeah. We've been in it, though. In our own way. In our own way.
Shoot, we've been trying to find a franchise quarterback since Marino. And, dude, the carousel of, like, Cleo Lemon, Jay Fiedler, Chad Pennington is just...
That's like us since Joe Namath, which has been further back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it goes further back.
At least y'all have had iconic moments like the butt fumble.
Oh, yeah, that's a great iconic moment for us. That's a great moment. I thought you were going to say something actually iconic for us.
Yeah, no. I mean, I could bring up the Hail Mary.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that Javon Holland, not even on the squad anymore.
What about the Miami Miracle the Jets pulled off against you guys?
Oh, the only Miami Miracle I know about is against the Patriots, where Gronk couldn't make a tackle. Why you have a tight end that doesn't know how to hit pursuit angles.
That was a crazy moment too.
Yeah, but hey, thank you for joining me today, man. This was fun. This was awesome. Insightful. It's the whole point of this series is trying to bring on guests is because you're not just getting my opinion. You're getting actually somebody who follows the team more deeply. I got my hands in a lot of Easter baskets here. There's only so much, so I appreciate you coming in and giving me some more context.
No, absolutely. And I will say, man, I mean, it seems like you're a Jets fan based off of the knowledge you have. Not saying you're a fan of the team, but you're definitely a fan of the sport, fan of the league, of the NFL, and like the research that you do from draft perspectives are off the charts. And I feel like your knowledge of the Jets was very impressive. You know, sometimes when I come on as a guest to talk Jets, I'm the one that needs to tell you everything, but you know everything about the Jets. So I definitely appreciate you coming on, and I respect your knowledge, and I respect the content that you produce on your YouTube channel. So if you guys are watching all the way to the end of this video here on his YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the like button, comment your thoughts. We appreciate you guys tuning in as always, and thanks for having me on, man. It's been a pleasure to chop it up with you, talking Jets for over an hour and 20 minutes. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude, it was hella fun, and looks like my light no longer wants to turn off, so... I appreciate it. It's nice to have some continuity here. But as always, till next time, you be easier, friends. Later.